Hello everyone! I recently had the privilege to be a guest on the Savvy cast. It was a great honor. I've been listening to the cast for 3 years personally, and every time I would listen to it, I would imagine myself being a guest and answer all of those questions and talk about those topics that people there were talking about. So when I finally got the invitation, I was really excited and I posted on Twitter asking for topics and questions, and then when the cast actually happened, the conversation went in such a way that I never actually really addressed all of those questions, so I decided that I'll just use them and record my first ever Q&A. And since I recently also hit 4,000 subscribers, I thought it would be a great way to celebrate the 4,000 subscriber as a little special. So, welcome to my first ever Q&A. I hope you'll enjoy. So to start us off, PLM asks, why do you think RuneScape was not as a big hit back in the day in the Eastern European countries? And they also say greetings from Poland. So greetings from Poland to you as well. And I think the reason why RuneScape wasn't as popular in Poland is, I think it boils down to two things, and the first one is localization. I think the big reason why RuneScape got popular in the West is because Jagex was advertising on sites like Miniclip, and people in Poland generally tended to stick to Polish flash gaming sites that were in Polish, just because we were kids and nobody really knew English all that well. And I don't think Jagex was advertising on those. And when word about RuneScape finally did come to Poland, I don't think many people were interested in giving it a chance because we already had a game that on the surface looked very similar to RuneScape, and that was Tibia. At first glance, they are both low graphics games about advancing your character and killing monsters and acquiring loot, but it's only when you actually dig deeper you can see the huge differences between Tibia and RuneScape. And while I still like playing Tibia, I think RuneScape is a vastly superior game just because of its immense depth. Tibia actually doesn't have all that much going on apart from killing monsters over and over to acquire loot, to kill stronger monsters, to acquire better loot, etc. And RuneScape actually has a lot of depth. So I think when people heard about RuneScape and they were already playing Tibia and all of their friends were playing Tibia, they weren't really interested in giving another game like that a chance, and that's a shame in my opinion. Riley asks, what's the single biggest mistake you've made on your UIM? And they also say, mine was getting all my looting bags from red spiders instead of earth warriors. Coulda had that scroll by now. Well, for what it's worth, I also get my looting bags from red spiders, or at least I used to before I became so accustomed to the quality of life of getting my looting bags from LMS. So I would advise doing that. I would generally advise against using Earth Warriors for the bags simply because they are way too tanky, and when you need a bag, you kinda wanna get it fast because over time that would add up to a lot of additional time spent just getting bags. So I don't think you've made any mistakes at all. Even if you were to get that scroll, I would much rather just get the scroll while I'm equipped to farm Earth Warriors instead of just trying to get it on the side while I need a bag. And as for their question, I didn't really make all that many mistakes on a UIM, and I'm not trying to flex here or anything, it just so happened that I was lucky enough to not make any huge mistakes. But one of the bigger mistakes you can make on a UIM is wiping, and I did wipe my account thankfully very early on, so it was a very valuable lesson. I did wipe shortly after 99 firemaking that I did at Wintertot, of course, and I was lucky enough to get a Dragon Axe. And I wiped at the Shadow of the Storm boss. I was getting to low HP and I couldn't finish that boss fight, and I didn't really want to teleport out. So I decided that I will die on purpose because all my experience of playing RuneScape before was on a free-to-play UIM that I never died on because nothing in free-to-play was risky. And on a hardcore Ironman that I only died once on, and then I made this UIM. So I wanted to experience how dying feels like, and I wanted to know what happens when you die, and that was the single worst place I could think of to test that because the Shadow of the Storm boss fight was instanced and I died and I lost all of my stuff and I thought I'm the dumbest person alive. Thankfully, That was very early game, so I made it a point to, before I log out, to bounce back at least in any way, shape or form. So I got some GP, I got some starter gear back, and the next day when I logged in, I wasn't starting from absolute zero, so I was really glad that I did that, and it turned into a valuable lesson. And the most valuable item that I lost was a dragon axe that I managed to reobtain a little bit later from Dagannoth Kings, so no real harm was done, and I was glad that it happened eventually. One of the bigger mistakes that I've done that was an actual mistake is I took 22 mil to the Wilderness Chaos Altar by mistake and I got PK'd, so rip. But thankfully, it wasn't all my money, so again, no real consequences. Oh, and I can't forget about this banger, of course, my claim to fame, probably the most laughing emoji reactions out of any post in the UIM Mistakes channel of the UIM Discord. Enjoy! Hell yes, there we go. Armadillo crossbow KC 100 and... No! No, fuck! Fuck! Don't worry though, I got it again one day later. Pog says, hey, big fan, been following your free-to-play UIM for ages, oh thank you so much, and I'm a big fan of you as well. Pog has a fantastic free-to-play UIM, and they are one of the very few people, if not the only person that I know of, that has completed Dragon Slayer on a 10 HP free-to-play Ironman before that was fixed, so huge shout out to Pog. And they ask, what other hobbies do you have outside of gaming? Well, as you can imagine, gaming takes up the majority of my time because I just play a lot of games, but whenever I'm not in front of the computer, I love nature, I love walking, running, and riding my bike through the forest. That just gives me so much joy to be in front of nature, to be surrounded by trees. I feel at home in the forest. I've told this part of my life many times, but every time I'm done with work on a Friday, I take my bike, I ride to the city through the forest, and I get takeout for me and Matilda to start the weekend on a good note. And apart from that, I love reading fantasy books, although ever since I've started playing RuneScape, which was like 10 years ago now, I've been reading less and less because every time I pick up a book, I just feel this brain rot need to do something on the side. But I've been missing reading more and more lately, and I would love to go back to it, especially to Terry Pratchett's books. I think those were my favorite. And I also really like K-pop. I follow different groups. I listen to a podcast about K-pop to stay in touch with the whole genre. And I'm trying to learn Korean, but I just started last year, so I'm barely a beginner, but I do try to learn something. And if you're curious, my favorite group is Dreamcatcher, so if you even remotely like K-pop and you haven't heard of them, go give them a listen. 2Z has two questions, and the first one is, what keeps you motivated to do insane grinds on free-to-play? And thank you so much, first of all, I'll take that as a compliment. But the truth is, I don't really need motivation because I just enjoy playing free-to-play. I love the community and the simplicity and the fact that I can plan my account in advance, so many years in advance. For example, now I know that I will be ranging ogresses for pretty much at least 2 more years to hit 200 mil ranged, and then I will be using all of the runes to get 200 mil magic, hopefully, which will take like 2 more years probably, and then I will hit 99 smithing in that time and 99 mining, and then I'll start working towards 99 rune crafting. It's just really cool to know that I can do all this and I'm not in any hurry, I'm not in any rush, I can enjoy my time. And I also love that I can flex doing anything depending on how much attention I can pay to the game. For example, right now I'm in this loop of doing 8 hours of table pawns because that's the time that I work and table pawns don't take much of my attention. And then when I'm done with work, I switch to my ranging gear and go shoot ogresses and spend my evenings that way. And I think the fact that I mostly play my main UIM and my free-to-play UIM is just my side account that I click on from time to time, that helps me as well. Probably if my free-to-play UIM was my only account, it would get a little bit boring, but as a side account, I can't recommend free-to-play Iron Man enough. And the second question they have is there anything you would add to free-to-play that is already in pay-to-play, or something that doesn't exist in either that you would like in free-to-play? And the answer is not really. I thought about this question in the past a lot, and there are only a few things that come to mind. The first is a looting bug, because it's currently a members-only item, but it wouldn't really have all that many uses in free-to-play because there's just not really a point in storing anything there if you have to die to take it out. One interesting thing a looting bug would allow us to do that currently isn't possible on a free-to-play UIM is to split stacks. So what you could do, for example, is to deposit almost all of your law runes in a looting bag, leaving out, let's say, 1,000 laws, then putting that 1,000 law runes on a table and go and die to death pile, then pick up that 1,000 and go telegrab in the wilderness without risking everything that you have. But to be honest, I kinda like that free-to-play UIMs don't have access to a looting bag, and I mostly wanted to just talk about it to discuss that cool use case and not because I actually want a looting bag in free-to-play. One another thing that's not a huge thing, but it would be kinda cool to see in free-to-play just because I think it's a little weird that it's not, is the ability to craft a coif. Crafting a coif requires a leather, a needle and a thread and produces a coif, and all of those are free to play, but the action of actually crafting a coif requires membership. So I usually am a fan of those little inconsistencies in RuneScape, but this one kinda irks me out, and it would be cool to see a free-to-play action being actually free-to-play. It wouldn't have that big of an effect on anything. You can easily buy a coif in Varrock, and crafting a coif gives 37 XP, which is 2 XP more than the other best leather item, which is the hard leather body. But I don't think it's a huge change to the meta, and even if it doesn't come out to the game, I wouldn't be too upset. But just to be transparent about it, I do plan to get 99 crafting eventually via leather crafting, so maybe this is Pre-Searing trying to sneakily buff the method he'll use in the future? We shall never know. And last but not least, Autumn Elegy says, huge fan, likewise, and asks, I notice you play a lot of different RPGs and MMOs, so I'm curious to hear about those, what you like and dislike from each, and how you balance and prioritize which ones to play. So yeah, I play a few games apart from RuneScape. I also play Guild Wars, Tibia, World of Warcraft Classic, and Path of Exile, with honorable mentions to Diablo 2 and Shakes and Fidgets, so there is a fair bit to talk about. So to touch on a little bit what I like and dislike about each one of those games, let's start with Guild Wars, and I'm talking here about Guild Wars 1, not Guild Wars 2, which is also a fantastic game, but in my opinion Guild Wars 1 is unlike any other MMO you've ever tried. It has a fantastic tutorial zone, which I highly recommend everyone to just buy the game and play. Sadly, Guild Wars is not free to play, but once you buy the game, you can play it forever. It has no subscription. And just go play the tutorial. I'm sure you'll fall in love with it, but even if you don't, the main game of Guild Wars is fantastic. It has an incredible depth of building your character. Just no notes. The only thing that I dislike about the game is it has way less content than many other MMOs, so it would be hard to have Guild Wars as your main MMO game, but as a game you play from time to time, fantastic. I highly recommend it to every MMO fan. Next up, there is Tibia, and I will be very honest, even though I'm looking at the game through a heavy dose of nostalgia, I can't really recommend it to anyone. The game is shit, to put it simply, and I don't think it's getting better anytime ever. The only reason I still play is because of the tutorial island of Rookgard, but you would have to put in a fair bit of effort to even get to the proper tutorial. And the reason I still play is because I like the history of the tutorial island and the mysteries, and if I weren't playing the game as a kid and being a part of the community for a long time, I probably wouldn't play it anymore. Diablo 2 and Path of Exile are ARPGs that I play whenever I feel like I need to get my blood pumping, because all the other MMOs I play are a little bit slow, and those two games are action-packed adventures. and they are also my preferred way of gambling, because both of those games are all about getting that perfectly rolled item, and sometimes you just want to go and chill after work by slaying thousands of monsters and roll around and dodge and try to avoid the damage and getting one-shotted. I love them. I don't play them every day, but whenever I need that itch scratched of getting some action-packed gameplay, Diablo 2 and Path of Exile are my games of choice for similar reasons. And finally, WoW Classic. I could be talking about it for hours, so I'll try to keep it short and sweet, but it has probably the best leveling experience, the best leveling journey out of any MMO that I've played. I'm sure everyone that's an MMO fan has tried WoW in the past, but especially vanilla World of Warcraft is something that I would highly recommend. And the only thing that I don't like about the game, apart from the community turning it into a little bit of a spreadsheet simulator, is that I cannot turn back time and be a kid again, discovering it again for the first time, because I've experienced pretty much everything this game has to offer, and whenever I play it nowadays, it just feels like I'm chasing that dragon that already passed, and that's a little bit sad, so yeah. But still a great game. Now I got myself all nostalgic thinking back to the time when I played WoW Classic for the first time. What a magical time. I felt like a kid on Christmas again. Anyway, I have a Q&A to finish, so when it comes to balancing and prioritizing which ones to play, it's actually really easy because I just play whatever I feel like. My favorite thing about RuneScape is that I can always do something on the side, be it some kind of AFK skilling or something, if I want to enjoy some other game. So, for example, this is what my screen looks like when I play Guild Wars. This is what it looks like when I play WoW. This is what it looks like when I play Path of Exile. It might look chaotic at first, but I got used to it, and I'm really enjoying the fact that I don't have to worry about wasting XP on RuneScape whenever I feel like playing something else. It's a great balance that works out for me. And that was the last topic for today, so thank you very much everyone for submitting your questions. I'm sorry that I didn't address them during the actual cast, but I hope you enjoyed listening to my answers here anyway. And I really enjoyed recording this, although it did take a surprising amount of time, especially talking about other games that I play. It was not easy to actually express what I like and dislike about each game in a concise manner. Anyway, with all that said, that was the 4,000 subscriber special. It's still mind-blowing that you all watch and enjoy videos that I put online. So thank you very much for that. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.